Today I'm going to give you 10 powerful tips in 10 minutes. And today we're talking about Ableton Live, which is a great DAW, and it's even greater if you have a fast workflow. So let me show you 10 Ableton hacks that you have to know in under 10 minutes, more or less. Number 1, play modes. So you're editing a long clip and while listening to it, you hear something that needs to be fixed. You stop playback, make your adjustments, but when you press the space key to resume the playback, you realize that you forgot to click where you wanted to start from in the timeline. And the playback jumps back all the way to the beginning. That's annoying, right? Well, actually Ableton Live has 3 different play modes that you can use. So you can use your mouse a little less. You already know about pressing space to play from the playhead, but you also have shift space, which resumes playback from where you stopped. Now, this is extremely useful when fixing little issues you hear on the fly. But you also have a lesser known play mode, which is control space, or command space if you're on Mac. And this one is cool because it lets you play a small selection and then stop right after the selection. So simply make a selection in your timeline, press control space, and then the playback will stop when the selection ends. Number 2, minimize, maximize. When you work on big projects, there's a lot of zooming in and out of tracks, adjusting of automation envelopes and clip fades. And your timeline can suddenly appear very messy. But by simply pressing Alt-U or Command-U if you're on Mac, you can quickly minimize your entire timeline so that you get this very neat folded view. This is a huge time saver for when you need to quickly browse through your arrangement. And if you've already been organized and color-coded and grouped your instruments as well, you'll be able to cruise through your project like a breeze. Next one, duplicate everything. Duplicating is a big part of most Ableton users' workflow, and most of us use the Control-D feature all the time. But what if you want to make a part longer without overriding what comes after? Well, the hard way is to select everything with your mouse, move it back to make space for the new part, and then duplicate. But there is a better way. Simply highlight the part in your timeline you want to extend, press Shift Control-D, and boom! Your selection is inserted and the following material is shifted to the right. Now this really speeds up the arranging process and is a must-have in your toolbox. Now bonus tip is some other similar commands that do similar things, like Control-I, which inserts a blank section in your selection and moves everything to the right, and Control-Shift-Delete, which deletes everything in the selection and move everything coming after to the left. Okay, next hack. MIDI keyboard on your computer. Sometimes we are on the go and we don't have access to a MIDI keyboard. But as you may know, you can just use your computer keyboard. Now you toggle this on by either clicking here or just pressing the M key on your computer, and then your middle row will be used as the white keys and the top row as the black keys. However, there are a few limitations to this keyboard. One of them is not having velocity sensitivity. So we have 4 important keys we can use to get more control over the keyboard. By using the keys Z and X, we can control the octave, and by using C and V, we can control the velocity, allowing us to have way more control over our sound. And a little bonus tip, if this monitoring symbol is toggled on, you can use your arrow keys to easily input notes in the piano roll without having to record in real time or draw them in with your mouse. Okay, next hack, jumping octaves. When working in the piano roll, we usually need to move things around. And by selecting MIDI notes, we can use our cursor keys to move around, as this gives us a little bit more accuracy. And if you want to quickly change octaves, you can just highlight the MIDI notes you want to change and then press Shift plus up or down, just like this. Now, there are a couple of reasons why this is useful. One way I use this a lot is if my mix seems muddy and I have too many elements in the same register, I can quickly test out different registers and octaves and see if they sound better in a higher or lower octave. Another way this is useful is if you have recorded some simple chords and you want to change the voicings. For example, if you're using a small keyboard or the computer keyboard, but you still want some big open chord voicings, you can just highlight, for example, every other chord note and then quickly move them up or down for quick and accurate arranging. Next one, optimize height and width. This one is kind of similar to the minimize maximize hotkey in the sense that it's a good way to get a clean overview of the timeline. However, this one will not minimize your timeline, it will simply optimize your width and height so that everything fits nicely into your view. So if you've done a lot of zooming in on and expanding tracks and you're starting to feel a little overwhelmed and lost in all the different elements, you can simply press W for width or H for height, and voila, you have a neat and clean overview of the timeline. Now, depending on your project size, you might not fit everything into the current view, but it will be optimized so that you have a nice overview while at the same time you can see the waveforms and MIDI clips. Next one, scale. For the next tip, we'll go back into the piano roll. If you're someone who's not completely comfortable with music theory and you don't always know what notes go in the various chords, then the fold and scale feature can help you out. Now, let's imagine you're programming chords in a piano roll and you're maybe working in an unfamiliar key. Well, then you can simply go down to the very bottom of this clip view, toggle scale on, and then select your key. Now you see all the notes in the keys are colored in the piano roll. Now, to make it even easier to program the notes in and completely eliminate the possibility of adding wrong notes, you can press scale in the piano roll as well. And now all the notes that are not in your selected keys are hidden and you can just safely click around knowing that you'll be in the right key no matter what. Next tip, limbo. Limbo is an acronym for hotkeys that allow you to hide various panels in Ableton Live. Just simply press and hold Ctrl and Alt and start typing limbo, and then you can notice that your timeline is opening up and getting more space. Because sometimes we just need more space, and if we're not adjusting plugins or browsing for sounds or instruments at the moment, we might not need all the panels open all the time. So just remember limbo if you want more space. Next tip, capture MIDI. This next tip has saved me so many times when I'm just noodling around on the keyboard and something good suddenly appears. I'm not a great keyboard player, so sometimes when random good ideas pop up, I know I won't be able to reproduce them immediately. But Live has this little button right here that lets you recover the last MIDI information that was sent to Live. So when you played something you wanted to recover, just click this button right here and a MIDI clip appears that contains the last played notes. You can also drag out the clip to find more recorded information as well. Record automation. Okay, last tip of the day. Automation is a big and important part of music production in DAWs, but sometimes all the clicking around and adjustment can get a little tedious. And that's where the record automation button comes in handy. When this feature is enabled, all changes to any parameter in the ARM track while recording will be saved as an automation. Now this comes in handy when you've recorded something and you want to add automation in a more hands-on way. And if you also toggle the MIDI arrangement button, this plus sign right here, you can then press record again and manipulate your plugins using your mouse. When you stop recording, you can see that the information is saved as an envelope. Now this is great for when you want to automate parameters in a more organic way, or when the accuracy doesn't have to be 100%, or if you just want to save time. So that was it, 10 Ableton Live hacks in 10 minutes. Did you know all of these already? And which one should I absolutely have had included but didn't? Please let me know in the comments, and if you're interested in more tips on DAWs, you can check out this video right here about Logic Pro for the iPad.